There we go. Well, see there in Facebook land, I see somebody was waiting for me. Well, it's Mr. G again. Come back to you. Zeke, I apologize that you had to wait today. Fortunately, had some stuff going on here in the Mr. G household. Had to take care of some business. But here now. So, thank you for joining us. Get rid of these alerts. All right. I think I'm just going to get right into reading the next couple chapters of Spy Ski School. Let's see here. If I recall yesterday, Ben and the crew finally began their undercover mission going to the ski school. And he made contact with Jessica Shang. Things seemed to be going pretty well. He was getting close with her. Definitely has made the vibe that, a friendship is starting to form. And he can maybe start poking around for some information. But then, an unexpected visitor ended up in the gondola cart as they're on their way up the mountain. And that was his friend Mike. Mike all of a sudden showed up out of nowhere, yelling at him, going, "Hey, Ben!" And ends up getting into the gondola with him, Jessica, and Jessica's bodyguard, Dane, who is a very scary Scandinavian guy. It reminds me of a Viking in a lot of ways. But, so we're going to read the next chapter, and we're going to find out exactly how the heck Mike got here, and is this going to blow Ben's cover and maybe blow his chance of getting in close with Jessica and threaten the operation. So chapter 7, Complication. I told you I had an uncle in Colorado, Mike explained. No, I said, you didn't. I did, Mike insisted. The other day at the zoo. I thought back to our conversation, wondering if that was true, and to my annoyance, I realized I could remember the clothing that every random passerby had worn, but not the important detail. Apparently, I had been too focused on the wrong things. Okay, maybe you did, but I didn't know you lived in he lived in Vail. He doesn't, Mike exclaimed. He lives down in Denver. But it turns out some friends of his has a condo up here in town. And he said my uncle could use it whenever he wants. So after you said you were coming here, I called my uncle up to say hi. And he said, why didn't my brother and I come on out to ski? And so we did. Why didn't you tell me you were coming? I asked. I wanted to surprise you, Mike replied. And boy, did I. You should have seen your face. Total and complete shock. He turned to Jessica and asked, am I right? Oh, yeah, Jessica agreed, and then told me, you went as white as a skeet. You mean white as a sheet? I asked. Yes, that's what I meant, Jessica agreed. And then she turned back to Mike. I'm Jessica, by the way. Mike Brzezinski, Ben's best friend. It's nice to meet you. Mike flashed a perfect smile. Jessica then smiled back, blushing a tiny bit, which confirmed all of my worst fears. Mike being there was an absolute disaster because Mike was really a great guy. Everyone liked him, especially girls. He wasn't the most handsome kid at my old school, but he was pretty darn close. And he exuded this sense of confidence and fun that attracted girls like flies. Now that he was there in Vail, I knew he was going to divert Jessica Shang's attention from me, which would throw a massive monkey wrench into my ability to complete the mission. Plus, there's also a good chance that Mike would blow my cover and get me killed. He didn't know I was a spy, of course, but he knew I went to a top-secret academy, and he'd at least joked that I was training to be a spy in the past. Plus, he knew me as Ben Ripley, not Ben Kuhlman. I'd completely lucked out that the CIA had let me keep my first name. Even so, there was plenty of ways Mike could reveal I wasn't exactly who I said I was. And if he did, I figured there was a decent chance Dane might get suspicious and throttle me. We were halfway up the mountain in the gondola. It was hard to imagine any place more unnerving to be cooped up in with a professional thug like Dane in a tiny room dangling from a wire 100 feet above the ground. I was doing my best to keep smiling at everyone and act happy, like Mike's being there was the greatest thing that could have ever happened, but in truth, I was sweating buckets despite the cold temperatures. Mike had been so focused on me, he hadn't paid much attention to Jessica until that point. But now that he finally had taken a good look at her, I could tell he liked what he saw. His smile jacked up another few notches. "Where are you from?" he asked. "Shanghai." "That's awesome," Mike exclaimed. "I hear that Shanghai's excellent." All of which was much better response than my stupid Shanghai, China had been. "It's nice," Jessica replied. "So, are you in ski school too?" "Nah," Mike said suavely. "I've been skiing since I was 3. I'm going with my brother and my uncle today. We were all waiting in line down there, but when I saw Ben, I just had to come say hey. They're in the next gondola back." "So, are you super good?" Jessica asked, growing even more interested. "I'm okay," in a humble way that meant he was extremely good. "Though I've never skied out here before. I've only done Vermont and the Poconos." He peered out the gondola window, taking in the whole expanse of the mountain. "This place is enormous compared to that. It makes Poconos look like a bunch of bunny slopes." I looked out the window with him. Vale was much bigger than I expected. From well over a mile to the east of us, the white slashes of the ski slopes cut through the trees. "This sure beats spending winter break hanging out in my basement, doesn't it?" Mike asked me. "I can't believe we ran into each other right off the bat." "Neither can I said, trying my best to remain upbeat. "Sounds like we won't be seeing much of you, though. If we're in school, you're out with your family." "That's only during the day," Mike informed me. "The slopes close at 4. You guys want to meet up after that?" "I don't know," I began. "That'd be great," Jessica exclaimed, grinning at Mike in the way that said that she had already forgotten all about me. Dane grunted disapprovingly. "Jessica, your father wants you to come right back to the hotel after school today." Jessica huffed, annoyed. "Why? He won't even be there." Mike seemed to notice Dane for the first time, despite the fact that the man was taking up half of the gondola. "Who are you?" he asked in a friendly. "Jessica's brother?" Mike certainly knew this wasn't true. For starters, Dane was such a freak of nature, he and Jessica barely looked like they were of the same species. Mike was only goofing around for Jessica's benefit. Dane grunted again. "It's my job to make sure Jessica doesn't get into any trouble." "Really?" Mike asked and gave Jessica a sly smile. "You must misbehave a lot to need someone like this to look after you." Jessica giggled. "Oh, I don't get into any trouble at all. My father's just really overprotective." She gave Dane a pointed stare. "That's a shame," I said quickly. "But if he wants you at the hotel, I guess you should be there." I couldn't believe it, but I was actually in agreement with Dane on something. I wanted to keep Jessica and Mike as far apart as possible, too. Mike shot me an angry glance, annoyed I was messing things up for him. But then he brightened. "Hey, what if we hung out at your hotel? There must be a place we could grab a bite, right?" Jessica brightened as well. "There is. There's a whole restaurant." Dane grunted a third time. But before he could say anything, Jessica cut him off. "All Daddy said that he wanted me back at the hotel. He didn't say I couldn't have anyone visit me there. And he's paying for the whole restaurant anyhow. Might as well use it." Mike looked at me, wondering what Jessica meant by all of this. I shrugged, pretending that I had no idea her father was rich enough to rent out an entire hotel. Dane shook his head. "I don't like it." "Well, it doesn't matter if you like it or not," Jessica countered, "because I'm doing it. You are only supposed to protect me from trouble, not keep me from having any fun." She shifted her attention back to Mike. And you're not going to be any trouble, are you? She asked in a way that indicated that she kind of hoped he would be. No, Mike said, grinning wolfishly. I'm a regular Boy Scout. As he said this, we arrived at the top of the mountain. A 3-story building was perched there, housing restaurants, the ski school, and the gondola station. Our gondola cabin shuddered as it plunged into the building and then slowed down so we could get out. The door slid open, allowing an icy blast of air inside, and we all got to our feet. I'm staying at the Arabella, Jessica told Mike. It's the one right by the ice rink. I know it, Mike said. I walked right past it this morning. Very snazzy. We'll meet you in the hotel restaurant after ski school gets out, Jessica told him. Sounds great, Mike said. See you then. He grabbed his skis and headed for the slopes. My fellow spies were already out of the gondola ahead of us, holding their skis. Mike had to walk right past them to get to the exit. No one else took notice of Mike except for Erica, who knew exactly who he was. Her jaw dropped slightly at the sight of him. It was as close as I had ever come to seeing her express a surprise. That is so insane, Jessica told me, watching Mike saunter out of the door. To run into your best friend like that? Yeah, no kidding, I agreed, still stunned that it had actually happened. He seems really nice. He is, I said, then thought to add, his girlfriend's crazy about him. Girlfriend? Jessica asked, surprised. He's only what, 13? Yeah, I felt kind of bad telling a lie about Mike, but national security and my own life was now at stake. But he's pretty serious about her. They've been together for a whole year already. Jessica said thoughtfully. She didn't seem as discouraged by the news that Mike had a girlfriend as I had hoped. Instead, it kind of seemed like this made him even more interesting to him. By now, everyone else had shouldered their skis and was now moving out of the gondola section. Jessica and I followed them, and Dane followed us. We emerged onto a snowy, wind-blown plain. Despite being high up on the mountain, the slope here was surprisingly gentle. There was a wide beginner's run with its own small ski lift, as well as 2 magic carpets. These are basically moving sidewalks designed for the outdoors, which worked as a conveyor belt to move beginning skiers who couldn't handle the lifts up the hill. They were practical, although the sight of skiers being ferried along like groceries on a giant supermarket checkout belt was kind of ridiculous. All around us, hundreds of other ski school students were gathered in clumps, beginning their day of lessons. Some were going over the basics with their instructors, while others were already beginning to edge out onto the snow. This way, gang, Woodchuck called to us. He pointed to a tree about 30 yards down the slope. Let's walk over there and have a little talk about fundamentals and see if we can get up on our skis. We started across the snow, wending through the clumps of other skiers. Erica dropped in beside me and without any warning at all, kicked my feet out from under me. I gave a squawk of surprise and landed hard on the snowpack, my poles and skis scattered everywhere. All the other beginners laughed. Oopsie, Erica exclaimed. Careful there, clumsy. And then she knelt beside me to help me up and instantly dropped the airhead act. What is your friend Mike doing here? She hissed. It's a coincidence, I hissed back. This wasn't exactly true after all. I told Mike I was heading to Vale, and he decided to come here as a result, but I wasn't about to tell Erica that. Erica didn't buy this. Boy, you really screwed this up this time, she said, gathering up my ski poles. It's not my fault, I informed her, struggling. I had no idea he was going to be here. Erica looked ready to argue this, but before she could, Jessica came over. Dane followed her. Are you all right? Jessica asked. He's fine, Erica told her, transitioning right back to the dingbat mode. He just needs to watch his step better. This snow is really slippery. She handed my poles back to me and gave me a meaningful stare that Jessica couldn't see and warned, You better be extra careful now. I will, I said. The rest of the group was well ahead of us by now, gathering by the tree Woodchuck had pointed out. I started toward them, wondering how to get Mike out of the picture. I couldn't believe I was even thinking of trying to ditch my best friend over a winter vacation. But he had already screwed things up plenty as it was. I was going to have to step up my game if I wanted to win back Jessica's attention. Only keeping girls interested in me wasn't exactly my strong suit. After all, I've been trying to get closer to Erica for nearly a year, and she just tripped me on purpose. I had completely lost Jessica's attention. Unfortunately, all that was keeping her interested in me was that I knew Mike. She came up alongside me as I trudged downhill and asked, "So, this girlfriend of Mike's, is he super into her or just kind of into her?" "He mentioned marriage," I lied. Jessica frowned, not liking that response at all. Suddenly, Erica shot past us. Instead of walking over to the tree Woodchuck had pointed out, she had clipped on her skis and was pulling over. "See ya, slowpokes," she taunted. "Hey," I shouted after. "Woodchuck told us to walk." "I can handle this," Erica shouted back, a bit of her real self, uber confident self slipping through. "It's easy." She jammed her poles into the ground again, pushing herself forward, gaining speed. By the tree, Woodchuck noticed her coming and yelped in alarm. "Sasha, you're not ready to start skiing yet." "Sure I am," Erica yelled. Even though the slope was gentle, she was picking up speed, quickly closing the gap on the rest of the gang. It was at this point when Erica discovered that while she knew how to start skiing, she didn't actually know how to stop. And now she was heading right for everyone else. They all leapt out of the way as Erica barreled toward them, except Warren, whose reflexes weren't quite up to snuff. Erica clipped him as she shot past him, knocking him into a snowdrift. Beyond the tree, the incline of the slope increased gently, and so did Erica's speed. She began cannonballing downhill. "Sasha!" yelled Woodchuck. "Just fall! That'll stop you!" I'm sure Erica heard him, but falling down simply wasn't her style. It would have made her look foolish, and it would have been admitting defeat. Two things Erica simply didn't do. Instead, she stubbornly stayed upright, determined to solve this problem with her usual finesse. And so she only made things worse, gaining more and more speed. The slope below her was crowded with skiers, many just learning how to ski. Erica sliced right in front of one group, forcing them to wipe out, then bowled over another group like 10 pins. She began making a noise I had never heard from her before, although I had made myself quite a lot at spy school, a kind of uncontrolled panic scream. "Ah!" Her arms were pinwheeling wildly as she tried to figure out a way to stop. She couldn't, though. Despite the large number of skiers on the slope, Erica just seemed to be on a path to hit nearly every one of them. She cut some off, making them wreck, or carooned off others, knocking them down. One skier crashed into a tree, avoiding her, while yet another clanged into a ski lift pole. Several others went sprawling and ended up spinning down the slope on their bellies, taking out yet still more skiers on the way. A line of small children in a ski cart toppled over like dominoes. And yet, somehow, Erica stayed upright through it all, gaining even more speed. And then she hit a jump. It wasn't like a huge jump like in the Olympics, but it was really only a mid-sized lump of snow to the side of the run. But it did the trick. Erica launched into the air and flew several feet. It turned out, in addition to not knowing how to stop, Erica also didn't know how to land. Her skis bit into the ground, came to a sudden stop, but Erica didn't. Instead, she sailed right out of her bindings and began tumbling down the mountain. Her equipment flew off of her as she went, leaving a trail of belongings strewn across the slope. Later, I learned that skiers refer to this as yard sale. One pole landed high in a tree, the other nearly impaled a passing snowboarder. One ski ended up embedded in the ground like a fence post, and yet another unsuspecting skier promptly crashed into it. Eventually, Erica stopped tumbling and started sliding. Her arms and legs stuck out around her like she was a giant starfish. She took out a few more skiers this way until finally sailed off the run into the woods and plowed headfirst into a snowbank, hitting it so hard that she wound up embedded all the way to her shoulders. Whoa, Woodchuck gasped. That was the most epic wipeout I have ever seen. I nodded in agreement. My wreck at the ski ice rink the day before had been embarrassing, but it was a mere ripple compound to the tsunami of destruction that Erica had caused. On the slope below me, skiers and snowboarders were strewn everywhere, groaning in pain or shouting after her in anger. Luckily, no one had been badly hurt, but there were plenty of sprains, sprawls, and busted ski equipment. It looked as though a Panzer tank division had just come through rather than only a teenage girl. Far below us, Erica extracted herself from the snowbank, saw what she had done, turned so red in embarrassment that I could see it all the way uphill. Beside me, Jessica was laughing so hard she could barely breathe. So were many of my fellow spies. Even Dane, who had seemed genetically incapable of smiling, seemed to find the whole thing funny. And then I couldn't blame any of them. I was having trouble keeping a straight face myself. Man, oh man, Jessica gasped. That Sasha is a case of baskets. You mean a basket case? I asked. That's it. Is nuts the right term? Yeah, she's nuts, all right, I agreed. Jessica gave me a conspiratory grin in response. I found myself smiling back. Might have really messed things up for me, but for the moment, Jessica and I had at least one more thing in common. All right, Chapter 8, Reassessment. 3 hours later, we broke for lunch. Jessica was still laughing about Erica's wipeout. Did you see her when she slammed into the snowbank? She snickered. She practically buried herself alive. Jawa, Chip, Zoe, and Warren cracked up along with her. The dining area was a large serve-yourself cafeteria. Erica was still off getting her food. My fellow spies in training were just as amused by Erica's disastrous run as Jessica was, if not more. After all, while Erica had let her guard down with me only on rare occasions, she had never done it with any of them. All they had ever seen of her was the icy and distant, perfect Erica, who was constantly making everyone else look bad. So it was a thrill to see them witness her actually failing at something for once, and failing spectacularly at that. To make things even better, Erica hadn't improved much at all during the next few hours of ski school, while the rest of us had. The rest of us weren't faking being beginners, at least. I had actually turned out to be pretty good at skiing. Unnatural, according to Woodchuck, but everything else was getting better as well. Even Warren made progress. He had obviously lied when he had boasted that he wasn't so bad at it the night before, but then he wasn't terrible. He wasn't terrible either. Meanwhile, skiing was like Erica's kryptonite. She couldn't seem to do anything right. When she was supposed to turn, she'd go straight. When she was supposed to go straight, she'd turn. And she'd been failing constantly on the slopes, on the magic carpet, even while merely standing still. According to my calculation, she actually spent more time on her butt that morning than on her feet. All of which made her even more frustrated, which made her more determined to show us up, which made her take more chances, which made her crash even more. She didn't even have to be on skis. She wiped out 3 times so far in the cafeteria alone. She must have taken out 50 people on that first run, Jessica laughed. She's like a cow in a Chinese restaurant. You mean a bull in a china shop? I asked. Right, That's what I meant, Jessica agreed. Can you believe she honestly thought she could ski right off the bat? Zoe giggled. Without even a single lesson? What a nut job, Chip said, and Warren and Jawa chimed in with agreement. Then Erica emerged from the cafeteria line and everyone immediately stopped laughing. Erica seemed fully aware of what had been going on, though behind Jessica's back she narrowed her eyes at everyone else for a split second, but then fell right back into character. She stumbled over to the table with her salad and hot tea, collapsed into a chair, heaved a sigh of relief. Whew, made it. These ski boots sure are hard to walk in. And even harder to ski in, Jessica whispered to me. Even though we were on the opposite side of the table from Erica in a very loud room, Erica turned our way anyway. Anyhow, like she had heard this. Jessica grew instantly uncomfortable. I need to visit the ladies' room, she said, and then stood up and headed that way. Dane dutifully rose from his seat and followed her. Jessica grew embarrassed. I can handle this on my own, she told Dane. Father's orders, he insisted. Jessica groaned and headed off toward the bathroom, with him in tow. The moment both were out of earshot, Erica turned into her normal self. First off, she told the table, I admit I am having a bit of trouble skiing, but it's only temporary. You're not going to be laughing so much tomorrow when I put you all to shame. Second, we need to figure out this Mike Brzezinski situation now. Now, I repeated, glancing toward the bathroom. Jessica might not be gone that long. Yes, she will, Zoe informed me. She's wearing a one-piece ski suit, and she has at least 3 layers under it. It's going to take her 5 minutes just to get her pants down, let alone go to the bathroom. Plus, I spiked her drink with a laxative, Erica added. So take a few extra minutes on to that estimate. I swung back on to Erica's. You drugged her? Only a little, Erica replied. What was I supposed to do? Wait for her to have to go to the bathroom? I started to argue that this wouldn't have been such a bad idea, but then realized that no one else had a problem with it, so I kept silent. Now then, Erica went on, Mike's presence here is a huge problem, something that could derail this entire mission. Not necessarily, I pointed out. I've been thinking about it. Jessica likes Mike and I'm her connection to him. She still has to keep me in the picture, right? Wrong, Erica countered. Jessica will only keep you around as long as it takes her to cozy up to Mike. And my bet is that won't take long at all. If you and Mike drop by her for hot cocoa with her this afternoon, within 30 minutes she'll be asking him to take her on a date. Just the two of them. And you'll be tossed aside like used Kleenex. Once that happens, you won't get diddly squat out of her, and Operation Snow Buddy will be dead. Everyone else nodded in agreement with this. Leo Shing is planning an Operation Golden Fist for December 13th. Erica countered. That's only 3 days from now. Ben, you need to find out what it is as soon as possible, which means we need to get Mike out of the picture. You mean, like, kill him? Warren asked. Chip whacked him on the back of the head with an open palm. You're not going to kill an innocent kid, he chided. You only have to maim him a little. I gagged on my soda. Maim him? Nothing permanent, Chip assured me. Just enough to send him off to the hospital for a few days. You can't maim Mike, I pointed out. He's my best friend. He's a threat to this operation, Jawa said pointedly. We don't need to maim Mike at all, Erica said. There's a much simpler way to get rid of him. Poison him? Warren asked. This time Zoe whacked him on the back of the head. Erica sighed, disappointed that the rest of us hadn't figured out the answer. We make sure Mike isn't interested in Jessica anymore. How? I asked. By giving him someone even more interesting to fall for, Erica replied. It took another few moments for us to realize who she was talking about. You mean you? I asked. Of course. Erica took a sip of tea. I tag along for hot cocoa with you guys today. Mike falls for me instead of Jessica. Then we take off, leaving you two alone. Just like that? Zhao asked skeptically. Just like that. And then, Zoe joined in. Jessica feels rejected by Mike, so she's more vulnerable, which makes it easier for Ben to connect with her and win her affection. Erica seems slightly confused by this line of thought, as it concerned human emotions, but then she nodded in agreement anyhow. Exactly. Might not work out so easy for you, Chip warned. Jessica Shang has a lot going for her. She's pretty, she's nice, she's fun, she's rich. Yes, Erica agreed, but I'm me. Chip laughed dismissively. I'm just saying, given the choice between two girls, if one of them's a billionaire, that's going to mean something. This Mike character is going to show up to a hotel, find out Daddy Shang's rented the whole darn thing, and be gobsmacked. And once Jessica starts batting her eyes at him, he's going to think he hit the mother lode. Mike's not that shallow, I argued. We are all that shallow, Chip retorted, whether we want to believe it or not. Mike's on a week-long vacation. He's not looking to fall in love. He's looking to have some fun. And who's he gonna have more fun with? A girl who can afford to take to McDonald's, or the girl who has an entire hotel on a private jet and all the free food that they can eat? Good point, I conceded. I can compete with that, Erica said confidently. How? Jawa asked. No offense, but you're not exactly the warmest person in the world. Your own family doesn't even think you can make friends with Jessica. So what do you know about winning over a boy's affection? I know. I know it's easy, Erica replied. Much easier than making friends with someone. To make friends with another girl is work. You have to be nice, pretend to like the same things, and have all these excruciating, dull conversations about your feelings. To get a guy to fall for you, you barely even have to use your brain. That is not true, Jawa argued, very offended. Really? Erica came around the table to Jawa, kneeled close to him, batted her eyelashes, and purred. Would you like to go somewhere quiet and explain why you're right to me? Jawa looked as though his brain had shorted out. His face to face with Erica, his 14-year-old mind was completely overwhelmed by her beauty. Sure, he said eagerly. Let's go right now. Erica pulled away from him, dropping any hint of interest she had just shown. And that's how you win over a boy, she said. Jawa sagged as he realized he allowed Erica to toy with him so easily. Zoe shook her head, looking disgusted. I couldn't judge Jawa too harshly, though. I had been close to Erica like that several times and had been just as smitten. In fact, only a few seconds before, even though I had been fully aware that Erica was simply leaning in on Jawa, I still felt jealous of him, and a glance at Chip and Warren confirmed that they felt the same way. Erica returned to her seat and sat down and dug into her salad. So it's settled then, she asked me. I'll come with you today, distract Mike, and get this mission back on track. I hesitated before agreeing because I wasn't very happy with this plan. First, I wasn't pleased that after I had been doing so well with Jessica on my own, Mike had come along and messed things up, forcing Erica to intervene and bail me out yet on another mission. Even more importantly, I didn't like the idea of Erica flirting with Mike, because I was afraid that once she got to know Mike, the flirting would stop being pretend. Erica had never seemed to like the type of girl who would fall for a guy easily, but I knew that she had developed a crush on someone once before, someone who turned out to be evil, no less, which meant it could happen again. It seemed to me that if anyone could charm an ice queen, it was Mike. I had already had him steal one girl's attention from me that day, which was rough enough. To have him win over Erica would be devastating. There was, however, one legitimate argument against the plan, so I put it on the table. There's a chance that Mike might recognize you, I told Erica. He's seen you before. When? Zoe asked. Back when I first got to spy school, I explained. While we were investigating the mole, Mike spotted Erica and me sneaking back into campus that night. Erica waved this off. It won't be an issue. That was nearly a year ago. It was dark and he was really far away. Mike never forgets a girl, I pointed out. He won't make the connection, Erica said. He saw Erica Hale. But today he's going to meet Sasha Rutko. And they're two entirely different people. She was so confident I knew I wasn't going to convince her otherwise. And to be honest, I believed her. There were a few times that morning that I'd forgotten that Sasha Rotko was actually Erica Hale, and I considered making another argument against the plan, but I couldn't really come up with another one. Plus, I was forced to admit that there were bigger things at stake here than my schoolboy crushes. My life, for one thing. I didn't have a better plan, and I didn't want to say what my problems were with Erica's proposal, so I gave in. Sounds great. Good. Now there's also this to deal with. Erica slid her phone across the table to me. The selfie she had taken of herself with Jessica and me was on the screen. Nice picture, Warren remarked. Are you going to post that? I don't post, Erica said coldly. That's a surveillance photo, you moron. Warren shrank back into his seat while I took a closer look at the photo. I now realized what Erica was talking about. She hadn't really been taking a selfie at all. Her real target was behind us, Dane the bodyguard. I picked up the phone and zoomed in on him. I sent that to Hank while we were on the gondola, Erica went on. Not your grandfather? Chip asked. He was busy tailing Leo Shang, Erica replied. Anyhow, Hank got some intel for us. This guy is no bodyguard. His name is Dane Bramridge. He's Danish, and he's a real piece of work. The CIA didn't even know he was working for the Shangs until Hank sent this over. Last they knew, he was working as an international arms dealer named Paul Lee. Paul Lee who? Asked Zoe. No, Erica corrected. Paul Lee. 2 words. Paul as in McCartney and Lee as General Robert E. What kind of arms does he deal in? Jawa asked. You name it, they move it, Erica replied. The badder, the better. Bombs, tanks, torpedoes, rocket launchers, everything. If you're wondering where Spider got all those Russian missiles that they had, there's a good chance Paul Lee was the middleman. Real scum of the earth, that guy. I looked back toward the bathroom, making sure Dane Bamridge wasn't on his way back. What did Dane do for him? Bad stuff. Sometimes he'd move weapons, but mostly he worked as muscle. If Paul Lee had a problem with someone, Dane made that someone disappear. I swallowed hard. And now he's working as a bodyguard for a 13-year-old girl? Why? Because she's not your normal 13-year-old girl, Erica replied. No one in that family is to be trusted, including her. Your sweetheart probably knows a lot more about Operation Golden Fist than she's been letting on. From the direction of the bathroom, I caught a glimpse of Jessica on her way back to the table. She hadn't been delayed as long as we had thought. Dane was lumbering along behind her. She's not my sweetheart, I said. Point is, she's dangerous, Erica told me. The whole Shang family is dangerous, and Dane Bramage is real dangerous. The moment he suspects you're not a normal kid in ski school, you're in serious trouble, so we all better keep our guards up. Jessica and Dane were almost back to the table now. This isn't a game, Erica warned us all. All of our lives are at stake here, and maybe a lot of other people's as well. She slipped back into her fake persona just as Jessica came within earshot, acting like she was in the middle of a story. And then Maya laughed so hard, its photo came right out of her nose. It was disgusting. Everyone made the appropriate ew response, except Jessica, who looked around at us, seeming upset she missed something good. What are you guys talking about? Sasha was trying to make us all lose our lunch, so he said, Yuck, Jessica declared, now seeming happy she missed the whole story. She looked a bit pale after her trip to the bathroom, like maybe she lost her lunch herself. Erica's cover story had worked, though. Jessica didn't seem suspicious at all. Unfortunately, I couldn't say the same for Dane Bramage. He sat down heavily, staring hard at all of us. This is pretty much the same stare he had been giving us all day. But now that I knew how dangerous he was, it was even scarier than before. I really hoped he didn't suspect us of anything, because I didn't really need a deadly thug on my bad side. I had enough problems as it was. All right, we're going to stop there today. Thank you so much for joining me here today for today's Read Aloud. Unfortunately, I don't have any other updates as far as the distance learning. I just got done talking with my colleagues at Laura Haviland, and we are planning on meeting via video conferencing next week to discuss further what we're going to do as far as providing education services to you families. So again, I ask you guys to be patient with me as I'm trying to figure this out. We're all in this together. It is going to be a new experience for everybody, and it's not going to be perfect, but we're going to figure it out. It's going to be a process, and it's going to take time. The education of my students is very important to me, and I definitely want to make sure that I am providing the best resources that I can. And again, it's a new mode of delivering it that we're still working out, and your patience will be very much appreciated. Again, thank you so much for joining me today. If you guys have an opportunity to go outside, looks like today is another beautiful day. Who knows how many more of these beautiful days we're going to get here in Michigan with the spring weather. So if you have an opportunity to go outside, go outside. Sit outside. The sun feels nice. I went for a walk earlier today. It felt nice. It's nice that the sun is now out and it's starting to warm up a little bit. Makes kind of this, shelter in place quarantine not feel so dark and glum when the sun is out, brightens things up. I will continue doing the read alouds next week. I am still hoping that I can find a time that is consistent for everyone. I know that'll probably help, getting a schedule in place. But this week, having to share my Wi-Fi with someone I live with that was working from home this week, that wasn't always, possible to have a consistent time. But I'm going to try to endeavor to have a consistent time. And again, when I find out more about the distance learning, we'll be sharing that out with you families as soon as we can once we have a plan in place. So this is going to be Mr. G signing off. You guys enjoy the rest of your Friday and enjoy your weekend. And I look forward to seeing you guys again on Monday when I read the next couple chapters. Stay safe. Stay healthy.